to see the simulation plan by next class. Let's put it that way. Because this is the reality check. This will give us a sense, yes, I have it under control, I know what I'm running, and that's a matter of putting it, putting the pieces together, that's fine. But this will give us, I know where I'm going, and I can see it's doable. Or I can tell you, no, forget about it. That's okay. So we'll talk about GIS and storm surge. So I'll cruise through a little bit of basic GIS, but I don't want to spend too much time on that because I really wanted to get to the integration part. So pretty much what we're going to do today is integrate everything we've done until last week with ArcGIS. That's the goal. So we wanted to get all kinds of different information that are available within GIS in our modeling and our modeling out to GIS. So brief review, and I think we talked about datum projections, a little bit coordinates, but basically we are now transitioning from a sphere to a plane. And we'll be doing that back and forth, and more than ever, because at CERT, it's usually working in geographic coordinates, because it's a huge mesh. And most likely your coastal flood map will be a local product. So it's more an awareness thing. And we talk about geoids and vertical datums. Here's where things, you really, really should remember these things. The ellipsoid, the sea surface, and the geoid and things like that, and you guys seen that in my class before. And the thing to remember here is, what vertical datum am I working on? What vertical datum is my mesh produced on? What vertical datum is my DM on? And where vertical datum I'm producing things out. So that's the thing to remember, and there's tools to convert that. It's an awareness thing rather than being worried about it. It's doable, you just need to be aware. Very likely everything is not the 88. Just don't take it for granted that that's the case. And again, projections, we've seen SMS has made us very aware of this. Some of you already struggle with projections because you had to reproject, project, and things like that. Same thing is true with ArcGIS. The only difference is ArcGIS is much, much more smart and efficiently about recognizing projections and reprojecting things on the fly. That's what it was made for. So you should be okay with that. And remember, there are distortions in which, depend on what kind of projection you're using, things get distorted one way or the other. And again, it's an awareness thing rather than we will do something with it. Okay, I'm gonna skip this part, geographic coordinates. We all know what that is, so it's just so it's here. And the projected coordinates, so those are plane coordinates, which are really good for a small area, because there's much less distortion. So if you're using geographic, there's a lot of distortion. If you're using these ones, there's much less distortion if you're working at a local level. So we will be moving from geographic at CERT, big mesh, to local projections and vice versa. Here's some examples of state planes. Okay, that's it. Let's talk about ArcGIS. How many people here are familiar with ArcGIS? Oh, everyone. Great. So everyone knows ArcMap, ArcCatalog, ArcScene, ArcGlobe, all that. Okay, great. So here's ArcScene, ArcGlobe. Okay, the interface, toolbox, the map, the layers, all of that. So that's all we're going to be doing today. Spatial data formats. If you're familiar with ArcGIS, you're familiar with spatial data formats. We will be using today shapefiles and rasters. Those are the only two we'll be using. There's nothing impeding you to use a geodatabase if you wanted to go that route. And we'll be working with points, lines, polygons, vector data, shapefiles. And the reason I have this here is we're going to be going back and forth from a Fort 14 to a GIS world. So your Fort 14 had nodes. Those nodes will become GIS points. elements that connect to the nodes will become lines. And there you go. And we're also going to use raster data to produce flood maps, which means we're going to be doing interpolation. Yes? Remember interpolation?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll be doing interpolation to go from points to rasters. Yes?
Yep.
Okay. That was my GIS part of the class. I'm hoping everyone knows enough of GIS to follow this. If not, you should go to the library, Mason Library website. There's a lot of resources on GIS there. There's tutorials, there's like basic GIS, there's all kinds of things that you can catch up on that. So I'm assuming that everything I went through here is like, you know that for a long time, and it was just like generating awareness of things that you should be paying attention to. Okay, ArcStorm Search. This is the tool that we're going to use to integrate ArcSearch and ArcGIS. So we developed this a while ago. It's been evolving, so it's developed in-house. We did it. If you want to know more about it, the details, there's a paper on it, and I also posted on a Blackboard, so you can check it out. And what it is why do we want to use GIS with storm search? The first thing that comes to mind is visualization, right? We want to see things. But there are super cool tools in Stampede that allow you to do visualization. For example, this here is developed with Parallel, which allows you to use parallel computing to generate figures. And it looks pretty nice. I haven't seen something within GIS that looks so cool. So there are other tools out there in the supercomputer that would allow you to make really nice pictures. Yes, Rebecca?
Oh, I was trying to weather. I was trying to figure out what it was. Polar vortex.
Yeah, polar vortex breakdown. And if you Google, there will show up like so many neat figures. Just Google part of view or visit. It's super powerful. However, we want to integrate the best available data. So not only we want to have pretty pictures, we want to use data that are out there, and very likely in GIS format. For example, DEMs, bathymetries, land cover, and all of that. We also wanted to move our information out of the supercomputer so people can use it. If you make pretty pictures with that, people can't really consume that information. GIS is the format of choice out there, so a lot of people use GIS already. So we can put our data out. So what we're doing is we have a framework that's called ArcStorm Search that will talk to the files that we're using on Stampede. So what we developed was a tool that was capable of reading Fort 14s, Fort 13s, Fort 63s, and all of those forts, and produce ArcGIS data from it. So it's like a bridge between the supercomputer files and ArcGIS. So here's more details about ArcStorm Search. I don't think how much I should be getting into that, but it's a mix between ArcHydro and ArcMarine, and it runs on ArcGIS, and that's what we're going to use for the class. If you're really into ArcGIS and you want to know more about how things are structured behind the scenes, you can visit the slides and check the paper out. This is an example of how the geodatabase is organized behind the scenes. This is what it looks like in the Geodatamodel, and this is what it would look like, the complete geodatabase as seen in our catalog. And for example, this is a rendering of the mesh in 3D in our catalog. So what will we be using in the class? Pre-processing tools. So we finally got to a point where we converted the Python scripts into toolbox. So they are now sitting in the ArcGIS toolbox, and if all works, you just get another toolbox in your ArcGIS that have this pre-processing tool. So you're going to have a tool that's called Import Notes. You click, you select your Fort 14, you select where you want to save your shapefile, boom, it produces a point file from you from a Fort 14. And same thing is true for all this import mannings in, and it goes on and on. Same thing is true for post-processing. So once the simulation is done, we can bring, for example, Max Alice back and generate flows. So that's what I'll try to do today. That's what it looks like internally. So if you feel like you want to change the code, you're welcome to do